Calling today's meeting to order at promptly at 1 p.m. on Monday, the 20th of November. Thank you for those in attendance, and to the viewing public. We are videotaping this proceeding, and a link to the video and transcription will be posted on the Olympic Authority website following the meeting. And I'll just remind everybody, as I do always, to please speak up, speak clearly, and identify yourself every time you speak or make a motion. An agenda is included in your committee packet. And Renee, would you please call the roll to confirm a quorum is present?
Joe Martens.
Here.
Art Lucy.
Here.
Cliff Donaldson.
Here.
And Betty Little.
Betty is absent.
As she's absent, we have a quorum.
Thank you. The first item for the committee action on the agenda is the approval of the meeting minutes. May I have a motion approving the minutes of our last meeting held on September 22nd, 2023? And I will note that it was a long agenda, so consequently the minutes are pretty voluminous, but we covered a lot. Can I have a motion?
I'll second it.
Okay, moved by Cliff, seconded by Art. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Can't be. Motion carries. Okay, we have two resolutions on the agenda. Could I have a motion to adopt resolution number 515? It's a resolution committing operating funds and granting approval for the president and CEO to enter into an agreement for 2024 annual policy of health insurance. Could I have a motion?
So just to help me remember, do we talk about it?
No,
We'll talk about it after.
Move it, second it,
Then
you talk.
Okay, great. Perfect.
So could I have a motion?
Sure, I'll move it.
Okay.
I'll second it.
All right. Any discussion? And we should start by having David McKillop give us a rundown. We got a memo on it, but this is for the health insurance of the employees for 2024. The good news, I think the bottom line is the rate or the amount came down from last year. And it is I think in the view of the staff, it was one of the policies that made the most sense in terms of accessibility for doctors and healthcare within the system. And David will give us the overview, and then we'll have any questions.
Sure, I'll try to be as brief as I can, but.
Don't have to be too brief, it's okay.
So,
Come up by your mic.
out for bid.
Then we need to hear you on the mic.
For recording purposes, just by a microphone.
All right, so I'll try to be as brief and succinct as possible. We went out for bid this past summer. Our current carrier is Excelis, and Excelis originally came back with just over a 5% increase in premiums over calendar year 2023. Competing insurance agencies, CDPHP, MVP, and Highmark also bid. Highmark is formerly Blue Shield in Northeastern New York. MVP and CDPHP both had very, very aggressive quotes, roughly 7.5% and 8% decrease in premiums over calendar year 2023. A couple of the concerns with MVP and CDPHP are providers not having the same access that Excelis has, not only in the North Country, but especially out of area providers, and that would certainly have a negative impact on retirees especially. In addition, both CDPHP and MVP, in my view, and I think our broker's view as well, engaged in what's called acquisition pricing, which is, for lack of a better term, lowballing, trying to gain business, knowing that the experience will be what it will be next year, and then coming back with a second year of probably a very high increase. Highmark is fairly close apples to apples comparison with Excelis. They originally came in at 2.43% decrease and had verbally indicated a willingness to go as high as a 6% decrease over last year. The primary problem with Highmark, from my perspective, is they don't have a Medicare rate. So when you say it's a 6% decrease, you're looking at a monthly premium for an individual, monthly premium for two-person, and a monthly premium for family. But if we went over to Highmark, all the people that were on Medicare would have to migrate over to a regular individual plan, which is roughly twice the cost of a Medicare plan. And when you consider that, it would actually be an increase of approximately 4% over the 2023 rates. So all in all, my recommendation is to proceed with a renewal with Excelis. It's a 2.5% decrease 2.5% rather decrease over 2023 premium rates.
Why did they come in 2.5% under when they were originally broadcasting over?
Well, that's a tough question to answer. What I will say historically, they do come in a little bit higher. We're able to negotiate down usually about 3 or 4 points. This year we were able to negotiate down roughly 7 points. And I think really what we were able to do is leverage the CDPHP and the MVP quotes to get to a 2.5% decrease.
So when you do that, do you share with the other companies what people bid, or do you just say you're not looking too good?
Well, we rely on our broker to have those conversations, but our broker does share the information, my understanding, the information with Excelis. And the other piece that makes it really that's attractive with Excelis from my perspective is they have a very good history with processing claims if any of our staff have issues with claims. I know Highmark, according to our broker, they just purchased Blue Shield in Northeastern New York a couple of years ago, but their clients are having issues with Highmark claims and processing claims if there's any issues.
Okay. Who's our broker?
Burnham Benefit Advisors.
Great.
And how long have they been our advisors, David?
Since I've been here, so since at least 2003, and quite a few years before that, I believe.
Got it. Other questions? No? Thank you, David.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries unanimously. Okay, the second resolution. Could I have a motion for Resolution 516, resolution committing operating funds and granting approval for the president and CEO to enter into an agreement with Echo Entertainment, Inc. for television production and broadcasting services for the 2024 FIS Ski Jumping World Cup. Could I have a motion, please?
I'll move that.
Moved by Cliff,
Second.
seconded by Art. Michelle, could you give us some background?
Yes, this is a broadcast company that we have had prior experience with large events like this. They've done the Olympic ski trials. They did the World University Games. With the World University Games, they worked with another broadcaster. They have unique experience with ski jumping events like this to do the kind of camera shot presentations and post-event editing that will make the event so successful from a media perspective. They are uniquely situated to do this kind of work for us and have done it for us successfully in the past. And we enthusiastically support choosing them as the contractor for this event.
Thanks, Michelle. So I guess one of the questions I had was just simply on both of these resolutions, actually, I should just say, both of them were time sensitive. Time period sort of changed a little bit as we approached November in terms of actual deadlines. And I hesitate to bring stuff to the executive committee unless we need to. In this case, with health insurance for all the employees, we did not want to wait until the very last moment in December because it expires at the end of the year. And in this case, we only have a few months before the event. And once again, we wanted to get this under contract earlier rather than later and not be doing it at the last minute in December, especially, December's a tough month. We could have a bad snowstorm, and if these things didn't happen, we'd be in trouble. So I think, again, I hesitate to bring stuff to the executive committee, but in this case, we thought both were necessary.
Well, if I could just add to that, the health insurance quote had been good for a limited time period. They belatedly extended it out for us, but again, that would have only been a couple of days before the next board meeting or after the next board meeting is scheduled. So we don't want to risk losing a solid health insurance quote. And Echo is a very busy broadcast company. It's important to get those kinds of services lined up sooner rather than later. And Echo was looking for a firm commitment from us before our December 13th board meeting. So that's the reason we asked for this meeting for
Thank you.
contracts.
Questions?
So who else even considers bidding on World Cup ski jumping?
Well, this was a single source, sole source. I'm sorry, I always get them mixed up. But this was not a competitively bid contract. There is one other provider who has worked with us on large events like this, but they are not. Their services aren't unique to jumping events. They're more of a sliding sport broadcaster. So there are differences in understanding, as you might imagine, how to line up the shots and timing and all of that Echo has done for us before. They did, as I said, they did the Olympic ski trials. So they really have the unique ability to do this kind of work. They've worked with us before, and that's the reason that staff worked with them initially, and that there wasn't a competitive process, because they know there is not a large contingent of companies out there qualified to do this kind of work.
So can you explain how it works with, they are the ones that we pay them to broadcast it, then who sells the rights to be an advertiser for that event?
I don't know the details of the contract that well, but generally our arrangements like this have been we agree on who has the rights to do what under the terms of the contract. My guess is that it's us, but that would also depend on the licensing for this event. And I'm not sure, that depends more on what we get from the licensor than the broadcaster. They're just coming in with the crew and everything else to actually do that broadcast work.
So that they don't sell it to European TV.
No,
That's our,
that would be either us or the licensor.
Or FIS, yeah.
or FIS. And so does FIS, do they, yeah, I know it's a package deal or whatever, but I'm just wondering, is that a requirement by FIS that we broadcast it?
Yes.
Yes.
It's one of the responsibilities of the host. So that's in the contract. Our responsibility would be to hire a company that would do the production of the broadcast. I don't know the exact percentage of this contract terms, but FIS, through their partnerships or through ski jumping, would already have sold a number of commercial assets that would be part of the broadcast.
Okay.
There's generally a share in percentage of broadcast packages that would be available.
Right.
This
So
is Betty. Could I just ask a
Not
quick
particularly
question?
relevant to the,
Betty's trying to say something.
whoa.
Hello?
She can't participate.
You can speak to her. She
No.
has to come out.
Oh, I can't ask a question?
No.
Unfortunately, Betty, you can't, because we didn't
I know I can't
advertise your
vote. I'm not a-
location.
Right. No, that's all right. I knew that. I'm just listening, but I just wondered if they had done this last year. So that's all. Not important. Thank you.
Do we do this for like World Cup bobsled and skeleton?
Each of the events has a different rights and responsibilities as the host city. So for World Cup, that is something that USA Luge takes care of, I believe, through a partnership with the International Luge Federation. Through bobsled and skeleton, I believe the International Federation, IBSF, covers that.
Got it. So this is a little different. Were you ever counseled during freestyle events? Because those are typically broadcast as well. But
No, I wasn't here during those.
I know that's a FIS approved event. But anyway, I guess the big discussion for me is that we be more transparent in how much it costs us, ORDA, to put on events. And I think that it would be important for the board to have an idea of cost of putting on an event as well as the revenue, and then we all have a good idea on economic impact. But I still think it would be better for us to know the hard costs of events. And it's something that we've never really been given the detail on. And that's partly because we never asked for it.
So yeah, I totally agree, Art. We have talked about this. And I think having, estimates at least for the cost of events and then sort of a postmortem following events is how did it work out, based on obviously things like, the number of ticket holders and things like that. We don't realize until after the event's over, but it would be really good to have a kind of a pre-event calculation on what it costs, how we make the decisions on which events to host and which don't, and that it's not necessarily all about ORDA revenue. It's obviously about economic impact. It's about where we fit into the sports development scene. So there's a lot of different factors, and I think we all understand that. But it would really be great to see the some analysis of what it really costs us and what we and how we benefit from it. And this would be a great opportunity, I guess, is for the sort of the postmortem after this World Cup event in February.
We can do that.
And I bring it up because I come from the alpine ski world and I get inquisitioned a lot. Like, how come you don't do World Cups at Lake Placid for alpine skiing? And I know, for example, Killington does one this week and on Saturday and Sunday, women's giant slalom and slalom. But I also know that it's in the millions it costs. And so that's my response to people when they tell me. But again, that's not knowing the nitty gritty detail. I know it costs millions, but maybe they're getting millions in from TV and from advertisers and from sponsors. So that's why I'm so curious. So thank you.
Thanks, Art. Cliff, any questions?
No, I'm fine at this point.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Assume there's no abstention since we were unanimous. Motion carries, and that concludes the business of today's executive committee meeting. I think all I need now is a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second, Art.
Okay, moved by Cliff, seconded by Art. The meeting is adjourned. All in favor?
All in
Aye.
favor? Aye.
And none opposed. Thank you. Thanks very much, everybody.